Hello, welcome back to the second episode of the Bucks County Golf Review Podcast. We specialize in everything Bucks County PA golf, but we discuss everything about golf. My name is Carson Gastineau. I'm a 24-year resident of Bucks County, and I've been playing here all my life. My guest today is Jack Auteri. Jack grew up with me in Bucks County. Jack has moved to Nashville since, and he's here to talk about Bucks County golf and growing up there.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. This is my first time on a podcast. I'm pretty excited. Hopefully it goes well.
Well, hopefully this lives up to the expectations for sure. So I do have some questions laid out for you. I want to know, in Bucks County, what was your favorite part about golfing in Bucks County?
So I got into golf probably, I want to say probably sometime around 5th or 6th grade, right around when I moved to Bucks County. There is, something that attracts me to golf in Bucks County is very, very similar and akin to what attracts me about living in Bucks County in general. It's a very historic area. It's a couple miles from where Washington crosses Delaware. There's a rich history of Philadelphia, accessibility to New York, and it's kind of it couples that history with the serenity of being outside and in the environment. I think when you play courses around Bucks County, whether they be public or private, you kind of feel that immersion in nature. I think a lot of courses, as do most courses, around the country, Bucks County courses all have their own unique identity, if you will, and kind of offer a little bit something different depending on the course that you're playing. But for me, golf was always just a way to get outdoors. I didn't necessarily love, going on runs or going on hikes, but golfing was a way to kind of be out in nature, and enjoy time with your friends. That's really what it came down for me. I've always been a competitive guy, and golf offers that unique challenge of, being a game where, you can kind of slice it up however you want when you're playing against people, and there's fun ways to make the game interesting. But when it comes down to it, you're always playing against yourself. So it's not something that is necessarily specific to Bucks County, but it's definitely what attracts me to golf. And in growing up in Bucks County, there's no shortage of places to play golf. So as I grew up and as I kept playing the game, it just it ended up being an awesome experience to kind of use that to explore my own neighborhood, explore the different courses we have to offer, and also honestly just build great friendships and offer a way to compete with your friends and enjoy time together. But yeah, I would say overall, golf has become increasingly more and more part of my daily life, I would say, as I grew older.
Right. Yeah. No. And one of the things that you said is that it brings you and your friends together, and it brings you and the people together. And I would say that that's like one of the main things about why I started the website and why I started the podcast, is that golf is not just a sport. It's really an experience, and it's something that you get from golf that you don't really find anywhere else, right. Especially the competitive with friends in an environment like that. So this wasn't where I was going to originally go, but I'm just curious. You said that there's a bunch of different ways you can make things interesting. What are your favorite ways to make golf interesting?
Well, I'd be lying if I didn't say I like to dip my toes into gambling a little bit. Playing golf, is very different when you're playing with people than when you're playing with yourself. I do like to go out on my own, especially being out here in Nashville and kind of moving to a place where I don't really know a whole lot of people. I end up playing a lot of rounds on my own. But I definitely enjoy playing with people more because it kind of offers a unique way to spice things up a little bit. I would say, from our experiences playing together over the last, 8 to 10 years, the way we normally play is match play, heads up, which entails usually 3 bets. You have a match play going on the front 9, you have a match play going on the back 9, and a match play for the overall, with 3 equal bets being placed on each. It kind of match play is very different from how, the average golfer might view traditional golf, and, the kind that you see on TV where everybody is an extremely good golfer. They're all scratch or essentially below scratch golfers. So they go stroke play, and if you have a blow up on a hole, you're essentially out of the tournament. But with match play, if you have a blow up for golfers with our skill level, if you have a blow up on a hole, it's very easy to come back. You just lose the hole and you go on to the next one. But this particular format allows things to get kind of interesting because you have the option to press, as you know. So if you're ever down more than 2 holes on the game, you can press and double down another bet, which for someone like me who's extremely competitive, always willing to grab the shovel and keep digging it from down. It offers a kind of a unique way to keep the game interesting. If you're ever down and you have a really bad day and you end up down a couple of holes, there's always a way to get back into it. So I would say that. And the one that I've been introduced to recently, I think we played it when we went to Pioneers, was Wolf, which offers kind of something different. A lot of golf formats are usually meant to kind of even the field between an even number of pairings. So either 1-on-1 or 2-on-2 within a foursome. Wolf offers something different in that it's designed to be played between 3 players if you ever have an uneven group. And the concept of the game is that you have one of the 3 players is designated as the wolf on each hole, and it passes each hole. You go down the scorecard, and the next person plays as the wolf. And that person always tees off last. They see the first person tee off, and they have the option to choose that person as their partner based off of how their tee shot went. If they choose to forego that tee shot, then they watch the next person tee off, and they can choose whether to make that person a part of their team if they already passed on the first person. And if both people shank their first drive, the designated wolf has an option to go it alone, and you collect points based on who wins the hole. So if I choose you as my partner and we're going against whoever the third guy is and we win the hole, we both get a point. If I choose to forego both of your drives and I choose to play the hole myself and I win the hole, I get 2 points. So it's kind of got that unique little, if you really feel confident in your game, you can kind of, choose to show it off a little bit, but it's fun because it puts the pressure on, and it gives you the option to put people in each hole. And again, just there's so many different ways to spice it up. It's just something new that not a whole lot of people have played. So that one's been one of my favorites as well.
That's definitely a unique one. I'd only seen that when your dad showed it to us, and up until that point, I'd never even heard of it. What are your thoughts on?
And it's nice because, like, honestly, it's kind of tough to find things sometimes for when you're playing with 3 people.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially between golfers who are different skill levels and stuff like that. And it's just a nice game to have in your bag if you're ever in that situation when it comes up kind of often.
It has that flexibility where everybody gets to choose everybody as a partner if they want to at some point.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah, it makes things really interesting. What are your thoughts on scramble play?
Scramble, I do enjoy a scramble. The only thing that's difficult about a scramble is I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but scramble, you're playing best shot between 2 partners.
Yep.
The thing that's difficult for me to kind of swallow with a scramble format is it's tough to keep your own score. And I'm always someone who wants to know where my raw score ends up, not only for entering it for, handicap and gin purposes, but I always want to know where I ended up on the end of the day. And when you're picking up your ball on some holes to play your partner's ball, it definitely makes the game more fun. It's a lot easier to stay, in the round because you're not, you shank one into the woods and you hit a tree on your second shot and you're kind of in a really tough spot. You're blowing up on the hole. It's easy to get down, and that doesn't necessarily happen as often with a scramble. So I do enjoy the format, and it's fun when, you're trying to keep things light and fun, and especially if you're playing with golfers of varying, abilities. But I would say my only quarrel with the scramble is that it's kind of tough to get what your individual raw score was, how well you did that day at the end of the round, and know what that number added up to. So I've played it before and I do like it, but I would say I lean towards other formats because of that.
Right. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So you've been in Nashville for a little while. What are your favorite courses over there, and what have you noticed that's different from there than Bucks County?
Yeah, so Nashville also another. I mean, golf throughout the country, I would say, especially after the pandemic, is kind of blown up, regardless of where you live. Nashville is no different. There's a lot of largely undeveloped land out here, so it's easy to find good courses that are sprawled out. They're not tight. You don't feel like you're kind of forcing 18 holes onto what could be a win that could, accompany these 12 holes or something like that.
Something that you definitely will see around here is
Exactly.
courses.
Right. Out here, I would say that the course that I've found myself going to the most often is a course called Hermitage Creek Golf Course. It's right around the home of Andrew Jackson. He has a home in Tennessee called the Hermitage, and pretty much just in his backyard, there's this public course called the Hermitage Creek Golf Club. No, sorry, it's just the Hermitage Golf Club, I think. Excuse me. But yeah, it's a course that I found. They actually have two 18-hole courses. They have the President's Reserve and the General's Retreat course. There's kind of something interesting. They have a barn on the course in between the two that houses Scottish black-faced sheep, which is a species of sheep I wasn't familiar with at the time, but they graze the course and kind of maintain a little bit of the shrubs and stuff on the sides of each hole. And it's very common that you're playing around and you just have 50 to 60 sheep just kind of crossing the fairway in front of you. It's kind of nice. But both courses are a little bit different. One of them is definitely more link style, open. You shank a ball, it's just going into the next fairway, and you can kind of play it back. Where the other one is kind of very hidden back on the Cumberland River. A lot of creeks, a lot of tributaries flowing into that river. So there's definitely a lot of out of bounds areas. And I would say that course more than generals. You're losing balls and taking drops a little bit more. But both are, I would say, challenging. I think I believe you're kind of the same thought that we enjoy challenging courses. I think we're at the point in our game where the ball generally goes in the direction that we want, which is usually the first hump to get over when you're getting into golf. So we like to challenge ourselves, and it's the course is well maintained. You don't feel like you're at a disadvantage because people aren't picking up their ball marks. So when you roll a putt, it's jumping 2 inches into the air because it hits something crazy. It feels like it's an accurate test of your skills, and you feel like you're not unfairly challenged by poor course management or anything like that. Not to sound like a golf snob, but I do think it's important that the golf courses are well maintained and kind of a fair field and everything like that. And both of them are. So that's kind of where I've leaned to since coming to Nashville is just going there because it offers the variety of switching courses. I think the quality of the courses are great for the price that they offer. So outside of that, I haven't done a whole lot of exploring. There is a course.
What was the price difference?
Price difference between the two courses?
No, between Nashville and Bucks County.
Well, I would say they're right around the same. The courses. So the Hermitage has two courses, both at the same price. If you end up taking a card, it's around $70. Which I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but our experience in Bucks County has kind of been a little bit of the same. I think it's easier to find. You might have a little bit more variety, and that's just maybe me and not knowing a whole lot about Nashville. I've only been here 2 years and haven't done much exploring in the way of golf courses. But I would say the courses that we tend to lean to when we're back home, and we're looking at public courses is probably probably the 50 to 65 range most part. We have driven out to Ravenwood or Ravenclaw out in Limerick.
Yep.
And that was a little bit on the higher end, and we enjoyed that. The only downside is it's an hour and 15 minutes away. But yeah, we normally play 5 pounds and stuff like that. 5 pounds is what, $75, $80 with a cart?
5 pounds is actually on the cheaper side. 5 pounds is about 55.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what the cart pays. Well,
with the cart and like a prime
the one time Tony paid for me the one time, and I ended up paying him back, but
okay.
I didn't realize.
Yeah. No, they definitely get more expensive once you start going to like Pinecrest.
Right.
Yeah, that one's more expensive. But some of the ones on the outer side, like out away from Bucks County a little bit, like or Wedgwood.
Right.
Since that's
and
about,
Wedgwood's relatively affordable. Redwood's $50, $60 as well, right?
No, Wedgwood is actually pretty cheap. Yeah, it gets down.
What end up coming out to with a cart?
With a cart, we've played for $35 before.
Yeah, and with the quality that Wedgwood has, it's a fantastic course for that value. I would say
it's probably because it's right next to Saucon Valley.
Right.
So it's right next to Saucon Valley, and they have the luxury of a ton of land.
Right.
There's a ton of dunk, like it's surrounded by open land.
Right.
And so I'm sure the land wasn't cheap. They don't have to do too much to the fairways and the grounds, it looks like. So they
Right.
look like they can put a lot of their money and time and energy into the greens because the greens are great. Those are like the best greens in our area.
Right. Which I think is what I would prefer most out of any feature to be in good condition is obviously the greens because it's the one that affects you the easiest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say generally speaking between the two, um, maybe Nashville's a little bit more expensive. I'm not necessarily sure why that is. I think possibly it has something to do with Nashville being such a huge tourist destination and kind of a hub for bachelor and bachelorette parties.
Mhm.
Um, they have a Top Golf just outside the city, literally inside the city, I guess you could say, just across the river of the Titan Stadium. But maybe it's that tourism that drives, maybe a higher price just because it's a destination that people are coming to and kind of a big up and coming city. In the South, great weather, things like that. So they can probably charge a little bit of higher price rather than, depending on residents,
Right.
compared to Bucks County.
Right. Speaking of weather, did you play in the winter throughout Nashville?
I did. I did. I believe the grass down here it's either Tennessee or Kentucky bent grass. It's the kind of grass that when it goes dormant during the winter, it kind of almost bleaches itself. It looks like it's almost white or beige.
Right.
But the quality of the grass, I mean, it's very nice to play. It almost feels like you're playing um, in the spring or in the summer or fall. I would say the quality maintains throughout the winter. Um, but yeah, no, I have played Tennessee. It does get cold in the winter. We didn't have a relatively severe winter this year. It was I would say on the more benign side. So
Kind
yeah,
of
I mean, you put
temperature
on
range were you looking at?
say it again.
The temperature ranges. What were the temperature ranges?
I would say the coldest I remember going out like playing golf,
Right.
or just overall.
Playing golf.
I would say the coldest I went out during this winter was probably probably high 20s, low 30s.
Okay. Yeah, so same here.
It's essentially the same. I would say that's probably closer to what the average day during the winter is around Tennessee than Bucks County. I would say Bucks County probably gets down. You guys see you know single digits and teens in the dead of winter,
Yeah.
and definitely a lot more snow, which makes it more difficult to play because
Right.
you guys get a snowfall and it doesn't thaw or melt out for a week or so.
Yep.
Whereas the most we get over here is flurry. So if you have a cold day and tomorrow it ends up being a little bit sunny, you can get away with walking.
Yep.
And that's the other thing is walking out here during the winter helps keep you warm. And definitely my most enjoyable way to play golf is walking and carrying a bag. Offers good exercise. Excuse me, I had to kind of burp a little bit. But walking and getting the exercise in the winter is something that kind of is unique to an outdoor activity that you can do during golf. It keeps you warm and with it.
Right. Yeah.
Definitely.
No, yeah, definitely. Have you played a lot of winter golf in Bucks County recently?
Well, I haven't been. I mean, so I only come back to Bucks County since moving to Nashville. Usually for the holidays during the winter.
Uh-huh.
Uh, with working in hotel management and everything like that, work doesn't necessarily allow me to travel a whole lot outside of the winter just because it is slow, but that's usually when we're saving money and cutting costs where we can. So it requires me to be a little bit here a little bit more. And it's also when construction has its most unforeseen delays and things like that. So I haven't played a whole lot of golf in Bucks County during the winter, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's probably for the best
Yeah.
because it was a pretty rough.
Well, I mean, usually, I mean, that's what I mean. We usually have snow down, and you have courses that are open, but it's unsupported play, or at least local is, and um, it's a little bit more difficult because it is colder. You do have more snowfall, and out here, I mean, Tennessee or at least Nashville, it is kind of I would say through the winter you still have tourists and everything going. So when you can play, golf courses are open and it's encouraged, especially with the pandemic and everything like that. It was just really easy to get out and enjoy it.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, I have some final questions for you here. There's some just fun random questions.
So
First question would be if you're playing around a golf and you only get one club, what club are you choosing and why?
it's definitely not my driver because it's pretty inconsistent. I would probably go with somewhat of a mid iron. I would say probably my 8 iron, just because it's my most consistent club. I would say, um, in golf you have those clubs where, um, let's say you're taking any number, any yardage out, and okay, well that's say my 5 iron. That's what that number is. There's those thoughts that creep into your head of like, oh, last time I hit this, it kind of shanked, or last time I hit this, I topped it. And there's those clubs that you kind of have, some reservations when you go to pull them out of the bag. And let's say my 8 iron is probably the club that I have, the least amount of worries. I don't have a whole lot going through my head when I hit it, and it kind of makes for an easier swing. So if I get one club, I think 8 probably, because, it's got enough distances where, I hit my 8 probably 185. And that's enough to get you on the green in 3 on those par 5s. And then, it's still close enough where if you have a par 3, it's usually right around the number 185 if you have a long par 3, and close enough where you can dial it down if you need something like a 9. So I would say for those 2 reasons, it's pretty versatile for me. And also, the club I feel most comfortable with, I'd probably choose an 8.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, Kyle was the first guest, and he also went with the 8.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, he went with the 8, same exact reasons. I went with the 7, but
Right.
I don't hit it as far as you guys. So that's probably
right. But your favorite club that you have in your bag, I feel like you've consistently said not, and I'm not saying that you should use it for if you're playing around with one club, but your favorite club is your 4 iron? You call it 5 iron?
my favorite club is my 5 wood.
Yeah, your 5. Sorry, your 5 wood.
Yeah.
That is your most consistent club, at least in my opinion, at least based on what I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely my favorite club. It just doesn't allow for any sort of.
You can't really work it on a.
You can't work it at all around the green. If you're, you're not getting up and down with the 5 wood.
Right. It is. Right.
So I got one more question for you before we hop off. It's the par 3 17th at TPC Sawgrass. It's 204 yards. The Island par 3. What club are you hitting?
How I'm not actually that. How narrow do you know is the par 3, or like the actual island?
The actual island?
Do you know if it's got to be what, like 25 yards across, something like that? It's a relatively small target.
It's I know that it's very, very small, and it has that walkway along the back, which is about
right.
The only
That's the only relief you have if you miss is hitting it along that walkway. All right, so if we're thinking about this, you're my caddy, and you say, okay, we got 200. What do you say, 205 yards?
It's only 78 feet wide,
which is what, 70 feet, about 25 yards wide. You have a little bit of miss left or right, but it's 205 yards out there, so you got to get it there. And
yeah.
Okay, so I have this thing. We kind of touched on it with the 8 iron and the clubs that I have reservations with. My 4 and my 5. I don't know if it's the length of the shaft or whatever it is, but I have a lot of thoughts going through my head when I stand over the ball with 4 or 5 in my hand. My 6 iron usually with roll, it probably carries 205. It usually rolls to about 215.
Okay.
If you're my caddy and we're standing over the ball and we're thinking about it, I feel like I have a difficult time taking power off of my swing and still hitting it consistently. I feel like my swing is most consistent when I'm giving a full swing.
Yeah, that's
that makes sense. So I would say, I have to know what the number is to clear, the wood paneling, because it seems like my 7 was probably 195, and if that's short, if 205 gets you onto the green, then 7's not gonna work. It's gonna have to be a 6, and hopefully it's 6 on the green. But yeah, I'm probably saying 6 to play safe, if that's what we're talking about.
Okay. Yeah. No, I like it.
How about you? Have you put any thought into what you're playing?
So I would have to hit a 5, I think, because if I hit a 4, well, let's say if I hit a 4, it's probably just not going to land on the green.
Because of an accuracy, or because
of an accuracy thing? It's going to take a lot.
I'm in the same boat.
Yeah. So I would have to go with a hybrid or a 5 wood, which I think play it a little too long.
Right.
So because of that, I would probably go 5 iron and just hope that it's perfect.
Right.
But
and just cross your fingers.
Yeah, cross my fingers, really bring the hips on it.
Honestly, I think that's the feeling that even pro golfers have when they step up to 17. There's just something about that and the history around that hole. How many moments in big players tournaments have come down to that hole.
Yeah.
And I think like even for scratch golfers and guys who can hit numbers and hit distances accurately with every club in their bag, 17 still gives them a little bit of a I don't know, nervous feeling down their spine when they step up to it. So
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
I don't think it's just us, which is crazy. It's absolutely
Yeah,
crazy.
right. Yeah.
But I think that's why it's one of those timeless holes, and one of those ones that constantly comes up when you talk about the greatest moments in golf history. 17th green in that island is so unique in not only its appearance but also how it's been affected by golf history and how it has affected golf history. But yeah, I think those are both good clubs. I hope one day we get a chance to actually play it and we can see if we stick along there.
Yeah, 100%. Can't even agree more. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on.
I don't know. This was
Really
awesome.
appreciate having you.
Hopefully
This has been the second episode of the Bucks County Golf Review podcast. We are signing off. Do you have any last words?
No, I hope we can do it again. We got to keep this going. This is fun.
Yeah. No, I hope we do it again. Thanks a lot for coming on.
Thank you.
All right. Bye. Bye. Why did I say bye? Why did I say bye?
Is it over?
Yeah, it's over.
I thought it was.
Wait, maybe it's not.
It's not over. It's over.